Hey, the Matco truck just pulled up. Luckily, I know the owner really well. Let's jump on board and have ourselves a tour. Wow, so this is one empty tool truck, huh? I bet you've never seen one with so few tools on it. Well, I'm kidding. It's not, well, I mean, it is a Matco truck, but it's not owned by a Matco guy. It's owned by this guy, because he just bought it yesterday and drove it up from Lavernia, Texas, just outside of San Antonio. It's now truck number 3 in our stable, and hopefully before too long, we'll have somebody to operate it and have a small fleet of trucks up and running, selling tools all over the greater Austin area. In the meantime, though, I'll take you on a tour to show you how a tool truck is put together, what some of the features and benefits are, and if you're in the market for buying your own tool truck, whether you're a franchisee or doing it on your own, I'll give you some things to look for and some of the advantages to this particular layout. There are a few different upfitters in this industry that actually build the box that goes in the back of this truck. When they come out of the factory, whether it's from GM or Isuzu or Freightliner, that comes out as a cab chassis, and it's purchased by an upfitter that then builds out a box in the back of it to make it what they want it to be. And one of the heavy hitters in the tool truck industry is a company called Summit Body Works, and they're the ones that built the interior of this and the other 2 trucks. LDV is another vendor that also does a very good job. Summit seems to be very popular. They have some very nice styling cues that are common among all their trucks. And this one in particular has a different interior layout than the other 2. And there's some distinct advantages to this that I'll show you as we go through how this one is set up. The most obvious feature of any tool truck are the shelving. When Summit was building this one, and this was built in 2007, they used oak facing on their shelves, and this shelf here and the one above it are removable. You remove them by pulling out these latches here, and this guy has the same thing on the bottom, and they ride in tracks along the back on the wall, and this guy has the same thing up there. And the reason you want to remove those is if you need to put a toolbox with a hutch or a top box on it, then the distance from the floor to the first shelf will fit the bottom box, but of course you need extra room. So on some of the shorter boxes that have a top box, they'll fit just fine with this shelf removed, but if it's a tall enough box, you're gonna have to remove the top shelf as well. All these shelves are really heavy duty. Nothing's going to break them. And along the front of a lot of the shelves are these magnetic rails that we use to store individual sockets or extensions or anything that we don't want to lose, bits and things we can stick all along these magnet rails and keep them ready for display and purchase. Underneath the shelves are latching pull-out drawers and cargo straps that fit in the E-track all throughout the interior. You have here a spot for a shorter toolbox, and here is your cutout for a longer toolbox. Very few box configurations won't fit in this larger cutout. If you look at one of the other videos I did about the Monster toolbox setup, and you can click up here to see that link. You'll see how big that setup was. That setup actually fit in the large cutout that I had in my other truck. It was a tight fit. There was only about 1.5 inches to spare on either side, but I got it in there. So there's very few things that wouldn't fit in here unless you had, say, a 72-inch box with 2 side cabinets or something like that. Then you'd have to trailer that or put it in a different kind of truck. But this one can accommodate most of those boxes. Same configuration here for the shelves. This shelf and the one below it are removable with the same latching mechanism that you see in the other shelves. And the nice feature that Summit put in this truck that they did not put in my other truck is these undershelf lights in this truck are mounted to the wall. And this pad here comes out farther from the wall than the light does. So if you put a box up against you, you're not gonna have to worry about breaking this light. In my other truck, this light is actually mounted underneath the shelf, and it comes off of the shelf and plugs into a receptacle on the wall. So you have to remove the light if you remove the shelf. It's kind of a bummer because lighting's important in these trucks. With no lights, these places are pretty dark in the interior. So it's nice to be able to keep the lighting when you remove the shelf. More display space over on this side. These shelves are not removable because you're not going to be putting a toolbox in here. So these are permanent. Again, these have the magnetic rails on them as well. And this particular truck has a propane-fueled heater, which resides here. I don't know how much use I'd actually get out of it here in Central Texas. The other trucks that I have electric heaters, and we really don't use them very much at all. Because even when they are on, they really don't blow much hot air. They're very undersized for the size of the compartment back here. And honestly, if it's even on a cold day, once 10 or 11 a.m. rolls around, it's warm enough that you don't generally need to run the heater. The previous owner here used plastic chain to hang display items from, which is pretty clever. It's an old trick in the tool truck industry to use these shower curtain hooks to put hanging displays, or those carded displays with those holes in it. Just loop them on there and hang it. I like this plastic chain idea. This is clever. It's inexpensive and it does a really good job. I might actually keep those in or use them somewhere else on the truck for hanging things like carded magnetic pickup tools. Our beef jerky can also benefit from that kind of thing. I was buying those clip-in hangers that I get on Amazon. They're kind of expensive actually, and the jerky sometimes falls out of the clips when the clips give out, but if I were to do something like this, I wouldn't have that problem. So I like that idea. I'm going to explore that some more. Closer to the front is this cubby here with a rack for hammers, and those holes up in the back there are good for smaller items like punches, screwdrivers, and things like that, but I don't know anyone who really uses those smaller holes. We all use these for our hammers though. And I kind of wish that Summit and some of these other companies would make larger holes, because if you have one of those big hammers that has a sizable butt to it, they don't fit in here, but you can always enlarge those holes a bit. This section here is used for large flat items. Creepers go perfectly in there. I also use them for packaged pry bar sets, stuff that you want to stand up. And I see the previous owner here has these screw eyes in here. That's handy because what you'll want to do is you'll want to put a bungee in there to prevent the stuff that's in there from falling out. This compartment here is for a floor jack. You just slide it in there, and this lip here is the jack will rest on that and it won't slide out. So you can keep one jack there. Looks like there's room here for another jack. On my other trucks, there's at least 3 or 4 of those compartments. So, you know, when we get a sale on jacks and we load up the trucks, it's nice to fill those compartments up. Here, at least we can run 2 jacks on the truck at a time. He's got this knife display case here. I'm going to get a different display case. So CRKT is our preferred knife vendor. And they have a nice aluminum display case with a Lexan cover on it, and I'll replace this with one of those because CRKT has these dealer bundles where for however much money I get a display case and like an assortment of 20 different knives. On the other truck, I've got one of the display cases hanging here on the back wall and the other display case hanging up in the front, because the kiosk in those other two trucks is right here in the center of the truck. So I have to stand here if I'm working at the computer, and one display is to my left on the one truck and the other display is to my right, so I can keep an eye on everything that's going on. This design has this L-shaped desk up front. So in the other trucks, this wall is full of shelves. So we sacrificed this wall of shelves to gain a larger work area. And we put our point of sale stuff here, computer, receipt printer, put a laser printer up here, or wherever we want to fit it. And from here, you get a shot of the whole truck. The thing I like about this design is that I'm out of the way, where in the other trucks, you're standing right smack dab in the middle of everything. So you're standing here, I got a stool because, you know, my feet are no good, so I got to sit down every now and then, so that's kind of in the way. And while you're working here, your head's kind of just buried in what you're doing, and you can't easily look up and see what's going on. So you like to keep an eye on what's going on in the truck, but then guys try to pass behind you and walk back at you, and I'm constantly moving and shifting to make room to have folks get around, especially if there's a small crowd of people on the truck. With this desk here, I'm standing out of the way, and I can look at everything that's going on in the truck, get a great view, and if I'm, you know, down here working on the computer, all I got to do is glance up if I need to talk to somebody or see what's going on, and it keeps a really nice, more like a brick and mortar store kind of feel to it. So I like that. Matco is an Oakley distributor, and that ticks me off because I would love access to the Oakley line. But I just found out not too long ago that my largest firearms distributor is now an Oakley distributor, so I have access to the Oakley lineup. We're going to be looking at getting some of the Oakley stuff on the trucks as well. So big advantage there. Thanks, RSR Group out of Dallas. I appreciate that. This display is actually in a really good place. I guess it could be moved to be over here where the knife display, I guess I'm going to put the new knife display here, the replacement when I get it, because I like the idea of having it, close to me. There was a time back when I was dealing with some shadier characters in the business that I would lose knives to shoplifting every now and again. It was never enough to be a problem, but it was enough that clearly, I mean, you don't want to lose stuff to shoplifters. And I noticed that A, you get the case and that cuts way down on shoplifting, but number two, you know, a lot of times while you're working with a customer, someone will ask if they can see the knives, so you give them the key so they can open it up, and you just want to make sure that you're in close proximity just to keep an eye on what they're doing. It's easy to put a knife in your pocket, walk away with it, even if it's absent-minded. It may not be something that someone's doing maliciously, but still, you want to be there and also help them out, provide them with customer service. If they have questions with the knives, you want to be able to answer them for them. And it's nice to also, you know, take another knife off the shelf and hand it to them and talk to them about it a little bit and tell them the features and the benefits. It's just good sales practice to do that, and having that knife display closer to me when I'm in my work area, I think is going to work to my advantage. So then I can also put, I can either reuse that sunglass display, which I really like. That's a nice display. I can reuse that or get a new one. Every truck has an AC unit, and boy, it better be working, because especially here, it gets really hot in the summertime, and it's miserable in the back of one of these trucks if you don't have your AC going. So no matter what it costs, no matter what it takes, make sure that unit works and blows cold. First of all, just for your creature comforts, and you don't want to be sweating yourself silly on board your truck. But here's the other reality, especially if you're new to the tool business. You're going to pull into a shop, and watching your truck pull in from your mechanic's perspectives is going to be like a breath of fresh air, because they're going to say, oh, thank God, Lindsay's here. Let me jump on his truck, get a few minutes of cold air, and we keep ice water on the trucks too. So someone comes on, they can relax for a few minutes, cool off, have a drink of water, do some shopping, make their payments, conduct their business. And it's a nice respite in the day for these guys when they really got to cool off after working in unair conditioned shops all day long. They're hot, they're sweaty, they're dirty. Just come on here for a few minutes, relax, kick back, cool off, get yourself a drink of cold water, do some business, and I'll see you next week. Now, regarding the way this truck is set up, there's a control panel here for the interior lights, overhead lights, and your side lights. This power vent switch is for this vent back here. And what happens is you turn that switch on, you turn this switch on, you turn this knob to one of the speed settings, 1, 2, or 3, so it's got to be off of 0, which is off. And then you open it up by turning this crank right here, then the fan kicks on. So it's a multi-step process to get that fan going, and it can be very handy, especially in weather that might be too cold to run the AC. You want some airflow, keep the blower on that thing going, turn that vent on, and you get some good cross ventilation. There's also an accessory switch position here for other things, and you're also running an inverter to run your 120 AC outlets. So let's talk about the electric on the back of one of these trucks. There's 2 electrical systems, and if you know anything about campers or RVs, it's very similar. A lot of the things electrically that go on in the back of a tool truck are identical to what goes on in a camper or an RV. So you have 2 electrical systems. One's your 12-volt electrical system that's powered by the engine alternator, and there's a battery bank back here that gets charged by that system. That system runs these lights. These look like standard household fluorescent fixtures, but they are not. These are 12-volt fixtures. And there's also probably an accessory plug around here somewhere. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it because it's kind of dark down here. Hold on. Let me see if we can see this. All right, the audio is going to be weird too, but under here, and I don't have a light, is a 12-volt accessory plug and 2 120 AC outlets. So that accessory outlet, that's for your cigarette lighter, so you can take. I don't use them because everything we use in the back is like 120 AC stuff. We use regular household plugs on things like our computers and our printers. But if you had something that you needed to plug in a 12-volt source, you have it back here, and that's also powered that same 12-volt system. Now, you're running an inverter back here as well, and this truck has this really easy to access panel here, which, if we pull this out, gives us access to our inverter here, which inverts DC power that comes from the truck's alternators and the batteries to AC power, which is going to run everything that you put back here that uses household current. It also has a converter here, and this is because there is a plug on the exterior surface of this truck that you can plug into an extension cord coming out of your garage or whatever that will keep the batteries charged up and back here. I don't use it much myself, but if you're putting the truck up for long-term storage and you need to keep power coming in here to keep your batteries charged, that's one way to do it. Or if you want to offload temporarily, let's say you're parked somewhere for a while and you want to keep the truck off from running, but you want to run the electric back here, you can keep it plugged in to do that too. These are all auto resetting breakers. These are manually resetting breakers here. These are heavy-duty marine breakers that they use in here. So you have feeds that come in from your truck that come off of a battery bank on the other side of this that feeds your inverter, and then your converter feeds that as well. And then there's your master shutoff. And around here's the battery bank. I hope it's going to be light enough to see. I didn't bring a light with me. I should have. There's 6 6-volt batteries. These are all deep cycle marine batteries. And they are wired in, help me out, electrical guys, series, because we're getting 12 volts out of them. as opposed to parallel. I forget which is which. But they're wired in such a way that they put out 12 volts of power, and that's what feeds the inverter back here and the 12 volt electrical system. Those batteries have a really long life cycle on them. Every few years you're going to need to replace them. I replaced the ones in the back of the Isuzu last year, I think. And before that, I think they were the original batteries, and that's an 03. And in the other GMC that I've got, I'm still running on the original batteries. So, and that's a 2008. So the batteries last a long time. These deep cycle batteries are nice because they don't have memory to them like you get in some of the other batteries, and they discharge and recharge very well. What else we got here? Oh, I'm jealous of I'm jealous. This is my truck. I wish my other trucks had these drawers. These are awesome for small parts, screws, accessory items, bits, whatever. Ratchet repair kits go great here. Any small item, bits, individual sockets. This is perfect for that, and I really wish the other trucks had a setup like that, because nothing would be easier and better in those trucks than to load up something like that. Because as it is, I use these magnetic strips for that stuff, and it's kind of a pain because it gets in the way. And what you wind up doing is you wind up putting, you know, things up here that, you know, they might be kind of tall, they might come up this far, and that restricts people's access to get at stuff behind them on the shelves. So if you're looking for a truck yourself, look for something that has drawers like that, because that's going to make merchandising your truck, you know, the way you set up your displays, much more attractive. You want the tools on your shelf to be easy to get to, because think of it this way. Somebody sees something, they want it, make sure they can touch it, because then they'll buy it, right? And that's just good marketing, that's just good merchandising. So see, want, touch, buy. Remember that. A merchandising trick I can give you is to always make sure if something's in a case, have the case open so that the tools are displayed, because especially if it's a power tool, someone wants to pick it up, they want to pull that trigger, they want to get the motor going, they want to hear it, they want to see it, they want to feel what it's like to hold in their hands. If somebody's looking at a ratchet or wrench or something like that, another hand tool, I make sure that I take it and I hand it to them to touch and feel while I'm either looking up a price or getting them some information on it, so that they can get used to holding that, and hopefully during that time they're falling in love with it and they want to buy it. Most of the time when you hand a tool to somebody on the truck, they're going to walk off the truck with that tool. So it's a very good way to lubricate your sales, get your tools in people's hands, especially if you're a new guy with a new brand that people might not be familiar with. The only way people are going to buy your tools is if they can touch them first and they like what they feel and they can picture and imagine themselves using that all the time in the future. All right, what else we got? Oh, the ceiling, of course. The ceiling on any tool truck has what we call bungee board. These are just panels, and you can see the seam here that goes side to side on the truck, and that's one board in between those seams. And woven into that pegboard are these bungee cords. So there's a knot tied on one down, and then these are just looped through. These all come like this from the upfitter. You don't install these yourself. Some trucks have bungee board that actually goes down the back wall here, but all the ones that I own just have the bungee board on the ceiling, and you use this to display ratchets, individual wrenches, extensions, screwdrivers, pliers, cutters. If it's not in a package, it's probably gonna go up on your ceiling in some bungee board. You don't use this for sockets. That's what you'd use these mag rails for here. Stick your sockets on here. Even if you have the socket sets that are still on their rails, take them to stick them there. They don't go anywhere. These are very, very strong magnets. Lyle makes these, and I sell them individually too, because once people see them in action on the truck, they'll say, man, where can I get one of these? And I'll say, I can get you one. They're from Lyle. Why is the interior of this truck covered entirely in gray carpeting? Because every vertical surface in this truck is potential display space. So your tools that come in cases and boxes and sets of things will all go on your shelves. But what happens, and anything that's individual that's not in a package of any kind will go up on your ceiling. So what do you do when you have an individually carded item? Individual specialty pliers that you're not taking out of the package, for example, or a package of hose clamp pliers that you're going to sell as a set, or something like miscellaneous items, scribes, picks. The list goes on and on. Those like those S hooks for, you know, caliper hangers, things like that. All that stuff, it's going to be difficult or awkward to put on a shelf, and you're not going to put it on your ceiling. So what you do is buy yourself a really good staple gun and buy yourself 9/16 inch length staples to go in that gun. And buy the long ones, because if you buy them too short, they're not going to penetrate this covering. So what you do is you take your product, put it up here, and chakunk, staple that thing using your staple gun, not a regular desk stapler now. Use a staple gun and stick them in there, and they'll stay there forever until you pull it off, or a customer pulls it off because they're going to buy it. And in fact, you're always going to notice in a tool truck somewhere, here they are, they couldn't be far, staples that were left behind. And of course the little pieces of cardboard and paper from the product card that they came on, because what you do is you just chunk, stick them there. Someone says, hey man, can I buy that? Yep. Some guys love tearing them off the wall themselves, or you can do it for them. It's kind of fun. Just make sure you pull the staples out, because what you wind up getting then is a wall full of staples, and it doesn't look so good. And you want to make sure that that you pull the staples out after people purchase stuff. I got in the habit myself of, if I'm going to pull it off the wall for somebody, I keep a multi-tool on me. I'll just pull that out. I take the pliers and boom, boom, pull the staple, and then hand them the product. That way I'm not tearing the product packaging and leaving the staples behind. I'm doing that. I don't have to go back later on and tear the staples out. But it's a good idea at the end of your day to go through your entire truck and look on the wall, see, okay, are there staples I got to pull out? There probably are, because there's probably stuff that people pull down and purchase. So you just go around, pull out the ones you can see, and do that periodically to make sure that your truck is always presentable and looking its best. The floor on most tool trucks is called black dot, and this is a rubber membrane, the texture of which are these black dots. So this is called a black dot floor. Some of the older trucks have wood floors. The nice thing about the rubber is it wears very, very well, and it's super easy to clean, because what you can do in here is every now and then just clear the stuff out that you got on the floor. Just reach in with your garden hose, spray it down, mop it, done. It looks clean, it looks good all the time. As it is, all you need is a broom to keep back here at the end of every day. Just go through the truck real quick. It only takes a minute. Go through, sweep everything out, push it out the door, and you're ready to rock and roll for the next day. The other nice thing about this type of flooring is when you wheel a toolbox in, and everything's coming into the back door, because you got a lift gate back there that you're going to use to bring in your heavy equipment and toolboxes and wheel it in. So when you bring it in, what's every toolbox got that I wish every toolbox didn't have? Only 2 swivel casters. Oh, wait a minute, the Snap-on fanboys say. What about my Epic box? It's got 4 swivel casters. I know it does, and that makes me really jealous, because I wish everyone else would do that, because I love that design. Snap-on nailed that one, and I wish every other toolbox had 4 swivel casters. As it is, they've got 2. So when you wheel the box in, one side you're just going to be able to push up against the wall, but what happens to the other side that doesn't have the swivel casters? Well, that's left sticking out here. So what do you do then? You got to use all your muscles, and you got to slide that box against casters that aren't going to move. You got to slide that all the way back against the wall, and then tie it down with these ratcheting cargo straps. The light boxes are easy. The heavy boxes, you're going to break a sweat, but it's what you got to do. And don't worry, the box can take it. You're not going to break it. But sometimes too, what happens on these floors is this material isn't always adhered to the entire floor, and sometimes that dragging action of those casters is going to cause this to start to buckle up just a little bit, and then now you're pushing against something that you're not going to overcome. So it's a challenge. Stick with it. Practice it a couple of times with some toolboxes to get used to it. It feels kind of weird at first because you're worried about breaking something or tearing your floor. Don't worry about it. It'll work. You just got to get used to doing it. There's a few things on here that the previous owner left behind. I'm glad that he left all the straps, because that's handy. He also left me some bungee cords, which are great, so I can use those to tie down smaller items, either in these toolbox bays, or use them for the creeper storage here, where I can put them across so things don't fall out of there into the rest of the truck. I think we pretty much hit everything. If you have any questions about tool trucks in general, how they're built, features to look out for, and even things to avoid, put it in the comments. I'll be sure to answer you, because especially if this is your first truck that you're looking to buy, you're probably gonna have a lot of questions. When it comes to the value of a truck and how much you pay for one, the prices vary widely. So look on tooltrucks.com, because that is the clearinghouse for anyone looking to buy and sell a tool truck in the business. The guy's been keeping that site, I think, since 2004, and it's the place to go. So people from all over the US and Canada post their trucks for sale, and you can peruse the gallery, look at all the details and all the specs of the trucks that people are posting. Hang on a sec. There we go. Contact the sellers directly. You're gonna have to travel to see the truck, unless you know somebody local in an area, if it's far away from where you are. We got fairly lucky. When I bought my first truck, it was when I was a franchisee, and I was just getting my franchise agreement underway. So I was traveling to Ohio for training, and I found a guy in Kentucky that had the truck that I bought. So the plan that I made was to travel up to Ohio, take my week of training, and then rent a car, drive to Louisville to pick up the truck, and then leave from there and drive that all the way back home into Austin, Texas. Worked out great. The truck's been running fine ever since. The second truck we bought was a guy right outside of Houston. Actually, I think it was in Houston. So it was a hop, skip, and a jump to get down there. Went down there, looked the truck over, drove it around, loved it, drove it back. And the one that we got yesterday, the guy was in Lavernia, Texas, which is even closer to me than Houston. Drove down there, looked great. Zach came with me to look over everything. He hooked a scanner up to it, looked at some error codes that it was throwing. Nothing to really be concerned about aside from the normal stuff that a truck is going to need. And here's a tip for you when you're looking to get into buying a work truck like this. All these tool trucks idle all the time. So more important than the miles that an engine has, it's the hours an engine has. And in these trucks here, there's actually an hour counter right here. So that tells you the number of hours that the engine's been running. I don't really know what you would think is normal or what you would think would be excessive. Just know this: no work truck is gonna be happy, especially through hot summer months, especially here in Texas or any of the other southern states. What happens for a tool truck, especially because it's idling so much, is that engine's just sitting there with no good airflow from the road. And heat builds up, things get brittle, stuff overheats, things break. Know this going into this business. If you buy a tool truck, you're going to have problems with that tool truck. That tool truck is going to cost you money. You're going to have to keep it fixed. We always have a punch list on all of our trucks of stuff that needs to be worked on. Sometimes it's major and we have to get it done right away. Sometimes it's minor and we can put it off until it's convenient or until we save enough money to get the work done. There are no major problems that a truck's going to have that would prevent us from getting it fixed. Do what you have to find, buy, steal, whatever you got to do to get the money to pay for the repairs on your truck. The repairs are expensive. The repairs on any diesel truck is expensive, but it's more expensive to get that truck off the road because you're not making any sales, you're not collecting your payments or your money. Get that truck back on the road as fast as you possibly can. Find a really good mechanic or mechanics. That way you'll have a backup plan if somebody's busy and can't see your truck right away. And have that all lined up ahead of time. Have a tow company lined up ahead of time. We use Austex Towing here, and they're fantastic. Love those guys, responsive, inexpensive. We've had to get some of these trucks on the hook a couple of times already over the years, and they've always treated us really, really well. The other thing you want to have lined up is a tire service company. Most automotive shops are not going to service the tires on your trucks, because even when it comes to tool trucks, the ones we have are considered medium trucks in the trucking world. They're not the heavy truck like the big rigs. And these run 19.5-inch diameter tires. So you're going to need a shop that handles that. But what we use is Youngblood Tire, thanks to Youngblood, who comes out anywhere we are. They'll do a road call. They'll come to where we store the trucks to work on tires there. They come out in pretty quick order, in short order. They're getting tires removed, replaced, put on. If I ever had a problem with one of them, they're out again right away to fix it. These guys are top notch. I love them. And you're going to need a team of people around you like that to make sure you can keep that truck rolling. So, good tire company, good mechanic or mechanics, someone preferably has some areas of expertise in the truck and the engine that you're buying. A lot of guys may not know how the back works because it's a whole different system done by an upfitter and it's a third party, so they're not going to necessarily know, but you need somebody to keep the wheels turning, keep that engine running, and everything that bolts to that engine. Find yourself a good mechanic who knows diesels, and if you can find somebody who is specifically well versed in whichever engine / transmission combination that you're buying, so much the better. So make sure you do that. For as far as costs are concerned, this truck we got yesterday is it's an 07 GMC C5500. It's the top kick or the Kodiak truck. It has a Duramax 6.6 engine with an Allison transmission. Rock solid engine and transmission combination. And the other one that we have like this is a 2008 same engine transmission combination. Just to give you a cost comparison. 5 years ago I bought the first truck. I paid a little bit more than I think I should have, but it was my first truck, so I really didn't know. And as I was comparing it to other trucks of the same model year, it kind of looked like it was a good deal. So I paid $45,000 for it. Yesterday, in the truck I just picked up, again, very similar to the other one, I paid the guy $11,000 for it. And I think that there's a few things going on here. One is a sign of the times. Right now, guys are getting out of the tool truck business. Not a lot of guys are getting into it right now because of the economy and the pandemic that we're going through. We are in the very fortunate situation to be growing the business. And where we have an opportunity to pick up a truck for short money, we'll do that. And even if that means I don't have someone to operate that truck right away, if it sits for a while, that's okay. We own the truck. We can do a few things with that. First, we can use it as a spare if we have to. So if one of the other trucks is off the road for a while, load this truck up, jump in it, and still do our routes. The other thing is, if there's interchangeable parts, like the lift gates on all these trucks are exactly the same. I had a video a long time ago, I think it was my first video I ever made, was about a lift gate problem we were having on one of the trucks. Come to find, the hydraulic piston was bad. So we just took a piston out of the other truck, which was just sitting idle, throw that in the truck, now it can keep rolling. So things like that are very important, and we're very lucky to be able to do that. We have the financial means right now, we can do it, and we have the customer base that's allowing us to expand and grow. So we got that all going for us. You can spend, oh, and then that other truck, sorry, the Isuzu, I think I paid $7,500 for that truck, and that's an 03. And again, that guy was retiring, he was getting out of the business. The guy I bought the 07 GMC from, he had gotten out of the business, and then he and his wife are working a commercial laundry business and doing very well for themselves in that. So he was looking to get rid of the truck because he had it now for about a year. And the first truck guy was a Cornwell dealer, and he had gotten out of the business and he was working in some other field entirely. So you can find good deals when people are looking to get rid of their trucks, especially if they've been hanging on to it for a while, like the guy I bought this one from yesterday. He had it a year. He was looking to move it, so I guess he dropped the price down to what was really attractive, and I jumped on the chance to get it. So glad I did. It made it back from the trip down there just fine. Starts up and runs like a champ. Zach's going to be working on fixing the AC, looking at some of the additional trouble codes that is generating, but we'll have this thing tip-top in no time at all. Now, what's the strategy like going forward? Because this truck is empty, which means we're going to have to buy inventory for it. So I interviewed a guy 2 days ago for the job of operating the truck. Now we have enough cash right now. We can
put a decent amount of inventory on a truck and stock it to get them running. But here's the way we're going to play it. So Tyler's truck is fully stocked, and he's been rolling out on his own for a couple of months. When someone comes on board to operate the other truck, instead of giving him an empty truck and having to build out all the inventory from scratch, I'm going to give him my truck, which is stocked. Spend some money, some incremental amount, to get some additional inventory on there so that he's ready to rock and roll when he first goes. And then I'll build this truck up, I'll take this one out, and I'll build this one up from scratch, because I already have an established customer base. And a lot of my customers know what my plans are. They know the strategy. So in the tool truck business, if you pull up to a shop and you have bare shelves in your truck, a lot of guys think that you're going out of business, and they get concerned that you're not going to be around to service them any longer, especially if they like you and they want to do business with you. It also, you know, it's kind of sad if they think that you're not doing too well. But all my customers know that the reason why I might not have a large inventory on my truck is because I'm putting those resources into the other trucks. And I am so lucky and so fortunate, and thank you to all of my customers who continue to support us in this, understand what we're doing, and continue to give us the business. It means everything, because it's with that business that we continue to grow and can fund these other trucks. So understanding that, I will take the hit with my customer base because I have a well-established and very loyal customer base, and put the resources into the other trucks for these guys who are building their customer base and need to establish the rapport and the relationship and gain that trust with their new customers. So it works out very well. And the other thing too is, as we continue to grow, we increase our purchases with our suppliers. We can increase our buying power, so we can better manage our finances that way, and hopefully lower our costs so that we can continue to be profitable and keep our prices down too, so that we can be way more competitive with the franchise trucks, because they can't buy the way we buy. Like, we buy from whoever we want. We have accounts with some very large tool distributors, and if one lets us down, we have choices. We can go to another one. We can buy direct from certain manufacturers. We buy directly from Maxion for lights. We buy directly from Coast for lights, knives, and multi-tools. We have a direct buy relationship with Medina Foods out of Ohio for beef jerky. So we have relationships that we can establish on our own to purchase our product and stock our trucks however we want. And franchise guys don't generally have that choice. You generally have to conform to whatever the rules are of the franchise company that you bought your franchise from. And usually, they're going to tell you some percentage of product that has to be purchased from them. I don't know what Snap-on's rules are. I know Max was 80%. I think Matco was 100%, and I don't know what Cornwell's is. But they make sure that that you buy most or all of your stuff from them, and rightfully so. I understand why they do it, but it kind of handcuffs the dealer, because you can see yourself as either a dealer for a brand or for a company, or you can see yourself as a business person. And because my background is in business, I see myself as a business guy. And that means I want to forge the business relationships that I have to forge in order to serve you the best way I possibly can. That means keeping my costs down so I can keep my prices down, working with vendors that'll stand behind their stuff so that I can stand behind the stuff, so that if something breaks or isn't right, we can make it right with no hassles whatsoever. And that's critical to me, because that's how you have to run a good business these days, because it is competitive. And if somebody doesn't buy from me, I know they'll buy from another guy in a tool truck, or Amazon, or Harbor Freight, or Northern Tool, or one of those companies where they're going to beat us in price every time. Hopefully we can beat them in service every time, so that we maintain a really good customer base. And so far that's working really well. So again, to all my customers, I am so grateful that you folks are loyal to us, and that you give us the business that you do, because it keeps us rolling and it helps us create jobs for people. The guy I talked to about working on our new truck is currently unemployed. If we can give him a job, how nice is that for him and his family? It's great for us, and certainly, assuming he provides the same level of service that we're building our brand on, it's great for you, because he can keep his prices and costs where we want them to be, and he can be competitive and give you a brand choice and a purchasing choice that you simply don't get on franchise tool trucks. So thank you all so much for watching. In the future, I'm going to be doing some toolbox reviews And also, as we stock this truck and get it rolling, we're going to make some videos showing that whole process. So please do me a favor. Click down here to subscribe so that you don't miss any of it. And remember, use a tool. Don't be one.